Welcome on in, fellow Titus action figure aficionados. This is Sprues and Studs, and well, it is time to do the inevitable comparison between the McFarlane Titus action figure versus the JoyToy Titus action figure. You hopefully have seen both of my reviews of each as I compared them to the video game versions of Titus, but now in this review video, we are going to put them side by side next to each other to see which version is better than the other. Do you think that the fat lady has already sung on this one? Well, we shall find out right now. In terms of the overall look of the two Tituses, Titusi, doesn't really matter. You can clearly tell that the McFarlane version is darker than the JoyToy version. The shading on the McFarlane one seems to be kind of slopped over the armor, especially in the pauldron areas. In contrast, I do appreciate the focused shading that is found on the JoyToy versions. You can see the shading is precisely applied to the edges of the armor plating, especially in this area right here. The biggest thing that I like the McFarlane version over the JoyToy version is the plethora of battle damage. The armor looks properly realistic and battle tested with the random bullet dings, scrapes, and various dents that are all over this thing. Conversely, the JoyToy version is much too clean in my opinion because the suit of armor looks like it was freshly minted off the Adeptus Mechanicus forges. Looking at the helmeted version of Titus compared to the video game helmet, it would appear both of the manufacturers are a bit off with the dimensions of the lieutenant stripes up top. The white bands on the JoyToy one are much too thin, and weirdly enough, the opposite is with the McFarlane one in that they are way too thick. In terms of overall detailing, JoyToy completely nails it with the colored earpiece and mask pipes. The McFarlane helmet lens needs more depth because it is just painted a flat red, whereas everybody knows on the JoyToy version, this is a translucent red lens that you can put an LED in it. Moving to the bareheaded versions, I don't think that either of the companies got the head area 100% correct, but the McFarlane version right here is way off. He looks as if he's had one too many meals due to the face that is much too wide. Strangely enough though, I actually do prefer the eyes on the McFarlane one as opposed to the JoyToy one because the JoyToy one appears that the eyes are not screened on correctly. With the overall accuracy and detail, my vote without a shadow of the warped doubt goes to the JoyToy version with the highly detailed facial sculpts and then scars. Looking at the right pauldron, I think that both of the manufacturers are pretty faithful to the video game versions. Both of them got the overall placement of the lieutenant symbols, the banner under the symbol, as well as the placement of the purity seals correctly. Even the gold-studded outlining on the top and the weave on the bottom of the pauldrons look good on both. However, when you compare both skull areas, the skull on the McFarlane one is lacking depth due to the missing shading in the eye sockets. Also, the Ultra that is printed on the banner is supposed to span all the way across like the JoyToy version, but McFarlane fell short of the mark. The left pauldron looks fine accuracy-wise on both. I do appreciate how the McFarlane one again has battle damage on it, which I suppose would be more accurate to the game version versus the pristine one that is presented to us by JoyToy. Moving down the arm area, as I commented on the McFarlane version review that I do not like how the chains are a monochrome black color. The JoyToy version is much more accurate with these chains being silver and the Inquisition pendant that is dangling at the end of it that the McFarlane version also lacks. Let's talk about the manly chest area of Titus. Both versions nail the gold wing skull with the Ultramarines U in the middle of it. However, I do prefer the bright gold color on the JoyToy version, but I like the design of the McFarlane one better due to the battle damage that was given to it. Interestingly enough, McFarlane has a small detail that JoyToy has left out in their version, which is the Ultramarines wording at the valley of the U. Then in the torso area, the armor plates of the McFarlane version look a bit too tall compared to the video game capture of Titus. I'll have to say that this JoyToy version over here hit the nail on the head with this one. Focusing in on the most decorated area of a Marine, which is the waist, in general, both companies did the video game Titus a decent amount of justice. However, one is more faithful than the other, and much to nobody's surprise here, the JoyToy one is more accurate. Both of them got the gold crown skull for a belt buckle, the Space Marine bones, and the two pouches in the back correct. JoyToy decided to give their Titus a pouch on the right hand side, and the McFarlane one chose not to, in which this one is lower correct. So we now come up on this poor tabard area of the McFarlane version, which amounts to a cheap cloth that is kind of tacked onto the belt region. This looks less than half-assed, and to be honest, very pitiful looking. On the flip side, we have the JoyToy version, which is highly detailed, with this cloth area looking very tattered and frayed. The shading makes this area pop out compared to the rest of the armor. We have come up to the Desert Light expanse of an NK10 armor, which are the legs. When looking at the decorations of both the main 40K manufacturers, they did a pretty good job of replicating the Laurel Golden Skull, the Purity Seal, and the inverse colored Ultramarine symbol. I will have to say that the right knee on the McFarlane one looks off because, well, it was screened off center, while the JoyToy one is smack dab right in the middle. Echoing what I have said before, one thing that I love the McFarlane version over the JoyToy one is the realistic battle damage that is found in the area. The armor has definitely a used, worn-in look. Now we are on the topic of the back, and there's no doubt that the JoyToy version is better. The vent areas are completely a different color with weathering that is occurring all over these areas. The U with the skull is a brilliant gold with detailed eye sockets. While on the flip side of things, the McFarlane one is a solid block of blue plastic with a gold center. There's just no detail at all, which is a disappointment. So the McFarlane one comes with a heavy bolt pistol, while the JoyToy version comes with a regular one. When I was playing Space Marine 2, I was using the heavy bolt pistol more than the regular one, so I actually much prefer the look of the McFarlane one over the JoyToy one right here. I do feel that there is not enough contrast on this McFarlane one. The gunmetal areas are too dark and blends into the black. The JoyToy color balance looks absolutely perfect. Now let's take a look at the rest of the accessories. The only other one that the McFarlane version has is this Thunder Hammer, which, to be honest, is a very great addition because you don't see Thunder Hammers around that much. The JoyToy version blows the McFarlane version out of the water in this aspect. I am still impressed with this ability to swap out this assault version for a longer range version with this auto bolt rifle. So thank you for joining me in this side-by-side comparison. Join me in the wrap-up of this video where we address the obvious elephant in the room. All right, Titus figure fans, what conclusions can we possibly draw from this comparison? Well, first of all, if you like a figure with battle damage and you like the scale of the McFarlane figure, then this is going to be the action figure for you. Aside from the price is actually pretty decent at $30 if you can find them these days, which is a little bit of a task. But if you like everything else, then I would definitely be spending my money on this action figure right here. Also, when I was posing these action figures for the B-Reel, I would have to say that the JoyToy hands of Titus are much more pliable, much more malleable, and it's easier for them to accept the weapons. The McFarlane one, while they are rather soft for a McFarlane action figure, still needs a little bit of work to get those weapons inside of the hands. So that's another thing that you'll need to kind of look out for when you're trying to pose this action figure with its various weapons. And if you are interested in picking up the JoyToy Titus action figure, then you should pick it up at David Toys, where I get all of my JoyToy action figures. I cannot say enough about this company because in the 2 to 3 years I have bought things from them, they have been very receptive to any issues that have come up, and they also have just fantastic customer service as well as ship times. And before you check out, do not forget to use the code SNS to receive 12% off of your purchase. So in conclusion, members of the chapter, it has been a fantastic time comparing the McFarlane Titus versus the JoyToy Titus. The success of Space Marine 2 has trickled down, and it is still fantastic to own our heroes in our own home right here. So at any rate, members of the chapter, thank you so much for tuning in to this action figure comparison video. Let me know what you think of this comparison in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.